But the thing is, if you choose the way of life based only on what is the smart thing to do, you disconnect yourself from your purpose. Now, for some people, it is their purpose to become a lawyer or a doctor or an engineer, but it's more about, do I feel called to do this? Am I passionate about wanting to help people in these specific areas? Now, I believe that our purpose is always connected to service, right? It will always be about how can we help someone else. But when we don't allow room to find out what are ways that I can help somebody else in a way that I feel connected to it, I feel like this is something that I would want to do. This is something that I would do even if I didn't get paid for it. If money was not a thing, I would be doing this because I don't know how to stop myself from doing it. And so often we grow up and we go to school and then we just choose, maybe a little bit randomly, at least it was for me, right? Choose a university degree. I went to business school. I spent 6 years getting my master's degree. And I did that because it was the smart thing to do. And I didn't feel connected to it at all. I didn't feel pulled by it. I was miserable for most of my time doing
Seriously.
it.
After
I
the
disliked
masters.
it so much. I really did not like it at all.
.25 on to the top of the hour of 9 a.m. Good morning once again, ladies and gentlemen. It's Kigali in the morning, and this morning we are so excited, so thrilled and honored to host Rebecca. Rebecca, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. Still care about each other. We're telling each other, how are you?
Yes.
How was your weekend?
It was good. Relaxing.
And how was the new week started?
Good, yeah. I mean, I get to be here, isn't it?
Very much. And you're smart.
Thank you.
We're following up from our last week's conversation. Remember when we talked about, finding the business mode, the niche, or how you can withstand or overcome while the others, what makes your business so special. So this week, I remember we talked about some stuff to do or something to do about finding the purpose, the reason or that niche, the reason why you were created, the reason why you want to venture into entrepreneurship, the reason why you may keep on holding on while the others are letting go. And this morning, want to understand the core motivations for entrepreneurship, finding purpose-driven businesses, and dealing with frustrations in case of any in Rwanda's SME landscape. So, want to begin with what is purpose and how is it different from a calling or a vocation?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. I feel like people use them interchangeably sometimes. I would say purpose is the main direction in which we have an inner desire to move towards in life. So it's the overall theme of what we do, not just with necessarily our work, but who we are as a human being. It's almost like it's the northern star that's pulling you in a specific direction. So it's quite overall. It very often has kind of a spiritual connection to it, not religious, but spiritual. Whereas a vocation is more skills focused. I would say it's a set of skills that you're good at, that you refine and you fine tune over time.
You become an apprentice, you learn.
You learn and you find out that you're really good at something, and then you just keep developing that skill over time. And you can have different skills in your life that you practice, and it becomes your vocation. And a calling can be in relation to your purpose. There's something within you that's calling you towards doing something. I would say it's smaller subsection to purpose. We feel called to do something in a specific area of life, and then we move in that direction, and then we use our vocation and our calling to fulfill our purpose. So I see purpose being more the overall theme, the theme of our lives, really.
You talked about the star that guides you, that calls you. So literally, purpose and calling are kind of a bit connected
I think a lot of people use them interchangeably. When I think about a calling, I would say it's a little bit more specific. It's a little bit more tangible. I feel called to do something specific, but it's under the theme of the purpose. It's in the same direction as the purpose. But people do use these interchangeably. Sometimes also people would say, speak about their assignment. You know, I'm here with an assignment. I'm here to do something. I like that word. It's like, it makes it feel like we're here to, we're here on this planet in this life to do something specifically.
So vocation, calling, and purpose. Vocation slightly beats different, but those two interchangeably, well, all people are getting that, because I've actually benefited from that. I believe I'm doing what the calling is. I'm serving actually the purpose. Not yet there, but I think I'll get there when serving the purpose. So what are the questions one should ask themselves to know whether they have a purpose in life?
It's funny you ask that, because I feel like everyone has a purpose. Why else would we be here?
100%.
Right? Why else would we be here? I think it's really about how connected you feel that you are to something. There's so much to unpack here. First of all, is a lot of people don't have enough experience to know what they feel called to do. Because you have to have experience with something in order to feel that connection to it, to feel like, okay, this is something that really fires me up. This is something that pulls me. This is something that I desire it more than just the outcome of, let's say, money. So very often, it's also the whole way that the school system works, and the whole way that we're conditioned to believe that we need to do something very specific to be successful, right? A lot of us, we grew up with either parents or grandparents or aunties or uncles or someone influential in our lives who said that, oh, you should be a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer, or something that makes sense, because back in their day, those were the jobs that paid well, that were stable, where you could always find work.
They were respected,
and they're very respected, and that's great. But the thing is, if you choose the way of life based only on what is the smart thing to do, you disconnect yourself from your purpose. Now, for some people, it is their purpose to become a lawyer or a doctor or an engineer, but it's more about, do I feel called to do this? Am I passionate about wanting to help people in these specific areas? Now, I believe that our purpose is always connected to service, right? It will always be about how can we help someone else. But when we don't allow room to find out what are ways that I can help somebody else in a way that I feel connected to it, I feel like this is something that I would want to do. This is something that I would do even if I didn't get paid for it. If money was not a thing, I would be doing this because I don't know how to stop myself from doing it. And so often we grow up and we go to school, and then we just choose, maybe a little bit randomly, at least it was for me, right? Choose a university degree. I went to business school, spent 6 years getting my master's degree. And I did that because it was the smart thing to do, and I didn't feel connected to it at all. I didn't feel pulled by it. I was miserable for most of my time doing it. I disliked it so much. I really did not like it at all. And I was having a midlife crisis in my early 20s, because I was like, is this what I'm going to be doing with the rest of my life?
So you were bogged down as that early.
Yes, because I didn't like what I was doing. And then you don't like what you're doing when you're in school. Guess what? If you go out and you use that knowledge that you've gained in your work, you're not going to like that work either. So I got into the job space. I got a job just before I graduated from my master's. And then I started working, and I liked it better than I liked studying, because at least I was doing something, right? But I still did not feel connected at all to what I was doing. And then I kept I went from project management in telecommunications, and then I went to banking in like a sourcing, buying market data job. And then I I moved here, and I became the country representative for an NGO, a UK based charity. And that's the first time I really felt connected to something, because now I could feel the feeling of working with someone.
it's aligning to you, what you feel.
It started aligning. Yeah. And then I noticed, okay, well, and throughout my entire career, every time I've done things like workshops or trainings or anything in that sense, I felt fired up by it. That's when I did something. I was like, I can't believe they're letting me do this, right? I can't believe I'm getting paid to do this. This is crazy. And then I just started putting the dots together, and I was like, I need to work much more closely with people and their development, right? Their personal development, their training of skills. That's something that I need to be involved in. And then I started fine tuning it, right? I got more and more clear on what is the kind of work I want to do with people. And at first, when it was like, I want to do work that's mostly, self-leadership, personal development. These are the things that just I spend my entire time contemplating anyway. I want to work with people, and these are the conversations I'm having anyway. And people are like, oh, I don't think Rhonda's ready for that. I don't think, this and that. And I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to do it anyway. Because I believe, and I've seen enough evidence
that somebody needs it.
Somebody needs it, and somebody will get it. I had too many conversations with people who got it for me to say, oh, they're not going to get it. I mean, I think that's just such a dismissive thing to say. Why wouldn't Rwandans get it? Of course they get it. And I was like, no, but they're not real. That's not really, it has to be more tangible. It has to be. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to have conversations with people, and then I'm going to let it be up to them, whether they're ready for it, whether they want this. And people were, and I think very quick, we're so quick to dismiss what it is that we want to do with our lives.
We should always listen to ourselves.
Exactly.
There's that inner voice.
We have people constantly telling us, this is not going to work, that's not going to work, I don't get this, I don't get that, but then it's just not for you.
And we're totally different.
We're so different, right? And I think it's beautiful when we have someone who lets themselves be guided by that pull, by wanting to do something very specifically and being fired up by it. Because the work that I do, like I said, if money weren't an issue, I would be doing this all the time, everywhere, still, right? So if you have something that just fires you up, something that drives you, something where you're just like, I don't know how to let go of this thing because it's just, I find myself constantly working on this thing. Well, then don't give up on it just because someone doesn't get it. We are so quick to let ourselves be influenced by judgment from other people, by external validation, by the need for someone else to give us. It's like we need a permission slip from someone, right? Okay, yeah, go ahead and do this. And it's almost like sometimes I just want to say to everyone, you have a permission slip, just take it, right?
I've always given this example. The president, Paul Kagame, has said, you don't need permission to go and do what is right or to correct what is wrong.
Yeah, that's so beautiful.
So that thing that tells you that, this, or your gut, this is not correct. And something tells you this is supposed to be done this and this way and this way. That means you are supposed to listen to that. As long as it is right, go and do it anyway. So that way you feel, if you do it, you're doing what your purpose is in this case. The gentleman, I actually follow Pastor Rick Warren. I don't know whether you know him. In his purpose-driven life, he has this, I think it's a module. It's called SHAPE, where SHAPE is spiritual gifts or skills. And then H is for the habits, or rather the heart, what your heart feels thrilled with. And then A is for abilities, SHAPE. Then P is for your personality. What about you as an individual? What is your personality? What is that within you? Then E for the experiences. So that way, he says if you categorize each with S, H, A, P, and E, it says you'll get to know your purpose.
That's so beautiful. I really love that. I've also heard Myron Golden say it as you find your purpose at the intersection between what you love doing and what you're good at.
I think that's so correct.
Yeah, but I feel like also, so for me personally, I didn't even know what I loved doing for such a long time because I was so disconnected from myself, because I was so driven by what other people had told me was the right thing to do, was the smart thing to do. And I was constantly just making decisions based on what somebody told me, like, oh, you should do this, you should do that. And even as a child, I would say to someone, I want to be an actress, right? I really wanted to be an actress. And everyone just kept telling me it's not possible. And it's going to be so hard. And you're going to have to do this, and you're going to have to do that. And you're going to have to lose weight, and you have to change your walk, and you have to learn how to sing, and you have to do this, and you don't know how to do any of these things. And it was like, I really felt constantly like someone was telling me, this is just not in the cards for you. Even though I really wanted it so much. And
you
then
felt you wanted it.
I wanted it so deeply, because I loved watching movies, and there was something so beautiful of the emotional experience that you could get when you saw someone do really good acting, right? You could feel something because they conveyed it really well. And I loved that so much. And I wanted that. And then they started saying, oh, but have you thought it's not, it's not safe. You're not going to get jobs. You're going to have to work part-time and like full-time as a waitress and like part-time as an actress, and it's going to be really hard, and you're not going to have opportunities, and there's so many things, there's so many challenges that you're going to face, and I was just constantly bombarded with this. And then I said, but what if you became an attorney or a doctor? Both your parents are doctors, right? You'll always have work if you're a doctor. And I was like, but I can't even stand the sight of blood. How am I going to be a doctor, And then I just ended up going to business school. You can't even inject
somebody if you're serious.
I can't even listen. I can't even I can't do needles, right? On myself and others. I will pass out. I cannot be a doctor.
You can't prick somebody.
Can't.
That's not your profession.
It's really
not your calling.
It was not. So I just ended up going to business school, right? And now what I do is that I still help people connect to their feeling. Like, such a big part of what I do is the emotional connection. It's the human connection. It's wanting to experience something on a deeper level. I help people with understand the connection between their leadership and their spiritual reason for being here, the integrity of wanting to impact. There's so many things that really evoke deep emotions in people. So I've managed to find a way of living out the part of my purpose that I was drawn to as a kid, right? But I had to go through a very long period of time where I disconnected from everything that made me me. I had to disconnect because everything was also like, oh, but in this world today, all the good things, all the so-called accepted values were very much based on the logical way of doing things, and it has to be rational. And I went and got really, really smart with things, and I would start speaking in a way that was very clearly, oh, she's an academic, right? Which really disconnects people. I got really good with Excel sheets and, all of these things that are just considered valuable skills. But it didn't speak to me at all. And I was just so void of connection, of feeling myself, of even when people ask me, what are you passionate about? I would get so triggered. Because I'm like, who's passionate about anything these days, right? Who's really passionate about something? And I would hear people speak about their passions. I would think, they're just putting on a show, right? Because you can't tell me that you're feeling passionate about something. And I would keep changing my words around what I was so-called passionate about based on what job was I applying for, right? Because, I love
and how
data.
Excited were you?
I was not excited at all. But I thought that you had to go through life and just pretend like you're excited about things.
Pretense. Okay.
Right? There was no real excitement until I started working directly with people on improving their lives, on elevating their personal development, on strengthening their self-leadership. And I could feel that connection with them. I was like, I could sense that, okay, now I see a bigger vision for my life. And I'll be like, yes, exactly. Let's go for something bigger.
Purpose creates impact.
Yes.
And impacts people literally.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Your purpose is designed for you to serve people.
And it could be even not just an individual. For example, you're hired in an organization. Maybe you find yourself alienated to a certain, how do I call it? Not passion. I'm avoiding passion, but something that you feel is basic, you're good at, even when somebody doesn't tell you, but you feel it within yourself. And then say, imagine somebody is hired at a company, and then the company wants to recruit, and then if somebody can talk to people, can outsource somebody, and then they bring them into the company without even using hiring or recruitment companies, and then they save money from the company because recruitment companies are given money to recruit people. And if somebody, for example, is in a certain company and uses that as a strength, isn't that also like your purpose? You relate to people, you talk to people, you can identify personalities, abilities in individuals and use them. Isn't that way a bit also impacting in that perspective?
It can be. It can also just be a vocation.
Okay.
Right? Like we spoke about earlier. Can be that you've gotten really, really good at something and maybe you're using it as part of your purpose. But you can also be really good at things that you don't enjoy doing. Right?
Wow.
I like to use the example, like, because I grew up in Denmark. We we love baking cakes, right? We love
Yes.
cooking cakes,
Wow.
cookies, pastries. You know, the Danish butter cookies, right?
Yes.
Cinnamon rolls, all of this that we just grow up with. Bakeries when you're in Copenhagen,
Pastry
there's
is
a
quite
bakery
main.
in every single corner, right? We're very pastry, cake, bread people. So I grew up baking. I grew up cooking with my parents, and now I would when I came here, I started cooking for other people. I would bake I would bake cakes and pastries and
how
cinnamon
would they
rolls.
feel?
People would be so excited, and everyone kept telling me, "You should open a bakery. You should open up. Can we order cakes from you?" And then I realized at some point, I don't enjoy baking when people pay me for it. I don't enjoy baking when I just bake something on an order and then gives to someone else, and then they get to go enjoy it, and I don't get to have part in them experiencing the cakes, right? I want to be part of it. I want to be there when I want to be part of the experience. And I just realized at some point, I just don't want to bake for money. I don't want to make that my life. I don't want to be the person that people order cakes from. I want to be part of the experience. So every single time now when I bake something, I bring it to friends or I invite someone and I've created something. People are always telling me, "When are you opening your bakery?" And I got to tell them, I'm never going to open a bakery. And people are like, why not? And for me, it's like, it's a vocation.
For you, it's a vocation, something you just
it's a skill.
enjoy,
It's something I
and want to
enjoy
share it with
doing.
people.
Exactly. But I don't want to make it my full-time experience.
Oh.
I don't want to spend every day doing it. I want to do it whenever I feel like doing it. So we can definitely have skills and we can have something that we're really, really good at. And I don't feel like that is my purpose. I feel like it is connected to my purpose in the sense that I create something that gives someone a good experience and then they're having some sort of an emotional response to it.
Maybe, yes, I'm worthy living on the planet.
They feel more excited about something, right? And I get to help trigger that sense of excitement or joy. And that is a big part of what I love doing. I love helping people elevate their emotional experiences, whatever that is. You know?
Looks like purpose is something so broad. We're getting into a break, and actually we shall go for the news as that. We're going to return after news because this one looks like it's quite interesting. We've spent all these minutes explaining purpose, but also want to get into the other part about entrepreneurship. How can one use their purpose in serving the needs of the community and then earn something out of that? It's very important that we discuss this because I believe you and I are supposed to be having a good conversation on this. Kigali in the morning. We'll be right back.
Amakuru meza.
They should align themselves, their lives with doing that particular purpose. But oftentimes some entrepreneurs end up in situations where they are bogged down and give up easily because they're not solving problems that align with, or they're not doing works or basically the professions or work they're doing that aligns with their purpose. How can one, especially as an entrepreneur, first of all, monetize that? Because if it's a calling, if it's a purpose, either way, if it's what you're doing entirely with the rest of your life, you should monetize it and get money from that. And then when you're not doing that, some entrepreneurs will find themselves in those situations and give up. How can one avoid that?
It's a very interesting topic, and this is again something that we could speak about for hours. Right? This question alone we can talk about for hours, because there's several layers to it. One is that a lot of people feel like they shouldn't be paid for things that they're good at, that they shouldn't be paid for things that they love. And that becomes a problem, because if you don't get paid for it, how can you sustain it, right? How if you cannot sustain something, you cannot sustain staying in this business if you don't get paid for it. You need to not just get paid, you need to get paid enough to be able to outsource or hire someone to help with part of the work, right? In order for you to do that, you need to get paid for it. You need to get paid enough that you don't have to stay up all night worrying about your bills. Because if you have to stay up all night worrying about your bills, how can you serve at the highest level?
You can't.
Right? You cannot. You need to build a business where you can be paid enough to hire help, rest, You know, there's all of these. You really need to think about ways to elevate whatever you're delivering as well.
It's true.
If you're constantly running around trying to do everything because you can't afford to hire anyone to support you, then you cannot serve your clients at the highest level. And if you cannot serve your clients at the highest level, are you really doing your purpose justice? So one thing is that a lot of people believe that they shouldn't get paid, but they absolutely should, right? Absolutely should. We can do a whole session around the conditioning that we hold that makes us believe that we need to suffer and sacrifice in order to be deserving of a successful business, right? Which means that very often we will make it unnecessarily hard on ourselves just so that we can suffer and we can sacrifice so that we can feel like we're deserving of doing work that is around just serving your purpose. That's another layer that we need to untangle. Another thing that we need to get rid of is this idea that it has to be hard and you have to suffer in order to be deserving of it. So those are two different topics, but they're both relevant when it comes to monetizing, because if you come from a place where you feel like you cannot monetize it because you're not deserving of it, and there's this whole idea, if I love it, if I'm good at it, I shouldn't get paid. It's crazy, right? Because then you're putting yourself into a situation where you're doing things that you don't love just so that you feel that you can fulfill your purpose. So those are all we can really uncover all of this over a very long period of time, but just trying to
just a sneak peek.
It just to pull it down to a place where we can really talk about monetization. Monetization really comes down to figuring out how can I package whatever it is that I'm good at in a way that people can understand what they get if they pay me.
So if you're good at something, literally you're going to be better and even better at it. So hence being paid.
Yeah, also that. I mean, obviously, it really also depends. Have you even figured out what your purpose is? A lot of people don't know what their purpose is because they don't have enough experience. That's why we started the whole conversation with, you need to have enough experience with different areas of life before you figure out what your purpose could possibly be.
That's why you pass here and there and then eventually settle.
You'll move around and you'll figure out, okay, this I'm good at, but I don't really love it. This I love, but I'm not really good at it. And you start moving around and you figure out, okay, this I don't love and I'm not good at. So, okay, that's the wrong direction, right?
So people shouldn't fear exploration.
No, you should definitely explore. You can't possibly know what you're passionate about, what you love, and what you're good at until you've spent enough time doing things. Also, we are very rarely really good at something until we've done it enough times, right? So how can you give yourself enough exposure that you figure out, okay, this thing I love, I'm not great at it. Could I build the skills to become really good at it, right? What is it that really, we're talking about calling, what is it that's pulling me in a direction? And allow yourself to get pulled into that direction. But until you get enough exposure and until you do enough work on yourself, you won't even recognize the calling in the first place. Have you ever tried, I used to not be able to get any signals at all. Right? Because I was so disconnected from myself. I was so much in my head that I would feel a calling and ignore it because I would consider it, it's just,
You weren't true to yourself.
I couldn't recognize it. I had to experience such a deep level of just pull before I even understood what it felt like. Understood what it was, how to even recognize it, right? And if you're a young person and you barely had any exposure and most of what you've done, maybe you just kind of worked for someone else, or maybe you've done work at home, or maybe you've supported on a family business, and you feel like you don't have passion, or you feel like you don't have purpose. It's just because you haven't had enough exposure. And I see that so many young people, they kind of also don't really want to work because nothing is really giving them the satisfaction.
Satisfaction.
They're not really
fulfillment.
Yes, they're not feeling it. And then they're just like, that means I shouldn't work at all. But that's really not the case, right?
You have to work and try out things and fail,
work and
discover again.
And a lot of skills that you want to build aren't fun to build. A lot of the work that we do that can support us down the road in fulfilling our purpose, it's not fun to build it. I never really enjoyed Excel sheets, right? But still, it was really useful for me to build the skills. So at one point, can we just figure out a way to enjoy the fact that we're just building skills for that purpose only? Building skills is a skill in itself as well. Can you expose yourself to enough new things that you can just learn how to become good at it?
Okay.
Practice it. Can you give yourself patience, right? You have people in their teens who are complaining that they don't know what to do with their lives. You're not supposed to know in your teens. And I know that it's so counterintuitive because we're being asked to choose a degree when we're teenagers. Doesn't make sense, right?
Sometimes you find it later on in life after getting out in the
Some
field.
people find it in their 60s, you know? And then they think, I've wasted all this life. No, you spent all that life building up to the time where you could find your purpose. We cannot force the timelines, right? So many people, they want to control their timelines because we're being taught you should have a 5-year plan, you should have a 10-year plan, you should have a 1-year plan. You have to set your goals for the beginning of the year.
Which is okay as well.
If you haven't reached them at the end of the year, something is wrong. The problem becomes the timeline. The problem becomes us trying to control. And if you're, you know, in business, it makes sense. You want to set goals, you want to figure out how to reach them, and you're doing this as a team, and it's kind of a different dynamic. But for your personal goals, it's like we set out to want to do something, and then we try to control the whole way that we're going to get there, and then we're going to set the timeline, and then by the end of that timeline, we look at our achievements and we think something went wrong because I didn't achieve it in the timeline that I wanted. But timelines aren't within our control. We can move in a specific direction, and life is going to hit you with whatever in life.
A few things, yes.
You're going to experience so many things that you could have never planned, right?
Wow.
But what you can what you can control is the direction that you walk in, and you just keep walking in that direction, right? We talked about purpose being the direction that your life is taking. You can keep walking in those shoes. You can keep walking on that road, and once in a while, you're going to derail and you're going to get off track, and that happens. And some things are going to happen that you can't control. There's going to be so many things where you just can't find the energy also to do the thing, right? And then we beat ourselves up because we wanted to go 100% and we only reached 10. And instead of celebrating the 10%, we get really angry with ourselves that we didn't reach the remaining 90%. But the timeline is not up to us. When it comes to things like spiritual work and purpose work and personal development work, we very often shoot ourselves in the foot by trying to force a specific timeline that is not up to us.
Wow.
We cannot force the timelines, right?
Some deep conversation.
It really is, but also what it really comes down to, especially when you work with young people, you have people in their teens and their 20s, and they're like, I don't know what to do with my life.
And that's the right time for them to be guided.
Yeah,
to discover who they are, to try out things that they feel will...
Try things out.
Yeah.
Just try things out.
Talking about trying, and I want us to end with this one. Talking about trying, I want you, if you could speak directly to every frustrated entrepreneur who has tried, they don't know their purpose, or maybe they're trying to find their purpose, but things are not adding up right now, who's listening to us, over their struggling entity. What would you say to them, especially as we go into Christmas and then the New Year, when we would maybe start all over again? Just in a few sentences as we end this.
I would say personal development, self-leadership, and entrepreneurship, they go really well hand in hand. Because as an entrepreneur, and anyone who's an entrepreneur knows this, you will never find a way to predict whatever is coming to you. You're going to get so many smacks down the road, right? You're going to be pushed around. You're going to have so many challenges. You could have never seen them coming. And in doing this work, leading ourselves through difficulty is the part that helps you become the kind of person who can just deal with it, right? One of my favorite entrepreneurs, when we speak, I'm always just amazed at the calm with which he handles things where I'm like, I would have shut down. I would have left
calm
this,
in the storm.
Right? He's just able to stay calm because he's like, I've dealt with bigger things and managed. I've had bigger challenges and overcome them. This here now is a small thing for me. And that small thing for him is a huge thing for someone else.
So what's the secret there that he uses?
Experience. You have to understand that climbing the mountain is the cost that you pay to see the view, right? To get to the top. You have to climb the mountain to get to the top. And every single challenge, entrepreneurship is not an easy journey. But what it can help you do is it can help you sharpen your personal development skills, your self-leadership skills. So that
work on yourself.
It's a part of it, right?
Discover,
a big part of
experience.
Entrepreneurship means that you're the one who's responsible for the thing. We glorify entrepreneurship because it's like, set up a business and create jobs. But it also comes with a lot of struggle, comes with a lot of hardship, comes with a lot of climbing mountains, right? But it also comes with a lot of benefits because when you're at the top, You get to the top of the mountain and you see there's a bigger mountain behind it. Right now you have to climb down the hill and back up a huge another hill. And you get to that top, there's another mountain, right? And this is just the continuous work of entrepreneurship. But it is such a beautiful container for personal development because it will show you what you're capable of. But if every single time you move forward and you meet a challenge and you look at the challenge and you think, not again. Why me? God, why me? It's like, but it's there to help you become the person who can handle the thing.
So shouldn't fear experiencing things. And as an entrepreneur, once you face these challenges, it's part of your growth.
It's part of the growth because now you can hold much bigger things. You're sharpening your skills so that you can be a match for something bigger and something greater. Some people, they will never learn how to overcome the obstacles, and then they will never get obstacles that are bigger than that. And when you don't get obstacles that are bigger than that, you also don't get opportunities that are bigger than that. So every single time you go through something that's hard, that's difficult, you just got to remind yourself, I'm sharpening my skills, sharpening my tools. I'm becoming a match for the purpose that is, it's like, I see purpose as being different levels. Some people fulfill their purpose to a huge level. You see these people around the world who are influencing hundreds of thousands of people.
And millions as well.
Millions. They have this, but they also have a really big personal capacity and an emotional capacity to hold big things. And then you have people who are like, who set up their businesses kind of as a side project. And then something in life happens, right? And say your uncle gets sick and that's really horrible and it's difficult to deal with. And then they just drop everything. I'm going to focus on my uncle. I'm not saying that that's wrong. If you got to focus on your sick uncle, go focus on your sick uncle, right? But if you're not able to hold your business through it, then your business will stay a side project, right? It won't be, if you don't take it seriously, you're not going to grow into it. And it's going to stay a side project. And there's nothing wrong with having a business as a side project. But there are levels to it. Are you going to serve a small community? And you're going to serve it whenever it kind of suits you? That's great, right? That also has weight. That also has purpose. It's just a very different level. Because if you're the kind of person who serves millions of people, and now your uncle gets sick, and then you're like, I'm just going to shut down my business. It doesn't work, right? You're going to have to find solutions to keep serving while you're also maintaining your family relations and you're doing what's important. So it's really about to what capacity can you grow? And a lot of people, they want the big thing. They want the big money, the big fame, the big recognition, the influence of all of these people, but then they cannot hold someone being critical, right? If you're going to serve millions of people, you're going to have the eyes of even more people on you. A lot of those people are going to be very unhappy with what they do, you do. They're going to be very critical of what you do. They're going to have a lot of negative opinions. You might receive death threats, right? You might receive like really nasty messages. You might receive things that are just absolutely horrible. And if every single time you get a negative comment, you shut down your social media account, guess what? You're not going to be serving millions of people. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to serve millions of people. But if you want all the good things and you cannot hold also the negative, you're not going to get the good things. You're going to have to stay a match to both of that. You're going to have to build the capacity to hold the difficult things so that you can also serve on the highest level on the things that actually do match your purpose, that you do desire, right? So again, there's so many levels to this, and I don't even think I answered your questions about fully the monetization, you know.
Probably we can look for another time for this because I'm afraid I'm actually going to conflict with the programs director because he'll be like, Angela, you took a lot of time, but we had to borrow this time and probably explain a few things. And I hope people have listened in and they've really had from this. Remember, we're celebrating 10 years, and it's part of giving you what exactly should shift you or move you to a better position. Rebecca, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Yeah, and I think we have a lot to unpack over the next couple of Tuesdays.
Yeah, we shall surely, and we'll keep on building that. I think we could even be doing series in the next couple of days or weeks. Yeah, Rebecca is leadership coach, trainer, mentor. So please follow her up on Instagram, on LinkedIn as well. Rebecca Hansen, right? Okay, please follow her up and you'll learn a lot from her. It's Kigali in the morning. My name is Angelo Ndungse. Let's get back to business. Good morning.